It's hard to believe, isn't it, when you think about it now, that literally it's just a year ago since we lost our wonderful monarch of 70 years, Queen Elizabeth II. And I'm sure you'll agree with me, it's this particular image that really just conjures up memories of so many things, so many images in particular of our late and wonderful monarch. Who could forget, of course, in June of last year, her very final appearance, coaxed back out to Buckingham Palace, all thanks to the then Prince Charles, alongside Camilla, who suggested quite very nicely, your public wishes to see you, they want to see the Queen. This was the culmination, of course, of the wonderful Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Her Majesty the Queen had been residing for comfort back at Windsor Castle, but like she'd done for so many years, she'd heard the cry of her public and decided that they deserved to see the Queen. And through a lot of sheer determination and a lot of discomfort, she made it back for the very final appearance on this balcony, alongside a very young and very impressioned Prince George. I think the pictures say so much, really, because there you have living history, quite literally looking at you. And when he looks back in many years' time, he will remember that moment. None of us knew, according to a well-placed source, just how much pain and discomfort our late monarch was in. Of course, we'd heard stories in the media about how difficult things had become for her, and we'd seen the fact that she was giving away more and more of her duties to Prince Charles and Camilla, and of course the Prince and Princess of Wales. But the bottom line was she wanted to continue as much as possible. And when she did make appearances, they were fleeting and of course more meaningful. So today I thought I'd take a look back with you, if you don't mind, and share some wonderful memories of what it was like to cover this royal beat with the monarch in seat. What a cracking lady she truly was. And more importantly, I'd like to share with you what we know, what happened in those very final few weeks. I think this image really, for me, conjures everything up that you needed to know. But as we found out later on, no one literally inside the royal circle knew exactly just how advanced and how much in discomfort Her Majesty was. You see, the royal show was going on as usual. The Prince Charles was busy, Camilla was busy, they were attending charitable events, and of course William and Catherine were very busy too, doing their thing. And then of course we got that dreadful news that, of course, our wonderful monarch was really now quite ill. Nobody quite believed it, and particularly when you work in the media, you are always schooled about this particular event, but you don't necessarily ever believe, and I know this sounds strange, that it's going to come true. After all, she seemed indestructible. Each time that you saw her, another birthday came, and nobody truly looked at her as a lady in her 90s. So many people realized, of course, that she was still very feisty when she was dealing with the then president of the United States, Donald Trump. Do you remember that? When they were walking up and down in Windsor, inspecting the garden, once again, she took command and control. There was a man decades younger, but she was not going to be put out. I think that's what really won Her Majesty the Queen so many fans. But what happened in those few and final days? The year did not start off well for Her Majesty the Queen, because in February of 2022 it was announced that in fact she'd got some kind of chill, a slight virus, this is said. A lot of people attributed that still to COVID. Let's not forget it was still rampant, and more importantly she'd managed to escape this so far. Well, that's what we were told anyway, with her own closed Windsor bubble. But as she revealed later on, she said it left one awfully tired. And I thought that was really sort of the thing that we needed to hear from her. I know that sounds strange, but the fact that she'd suffered too, and more importantly was admitting that it literally wiped you out no matter who you are. This was revealed, of course, in those various Zoom chats, which just showed that in fact the monarch had found brand new ways to communicate with the world, with her charities, with her subjects. I did love the fact that the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, was very busy trying to give her an online teaching course in front of the world. If you recall, she said, if you can see me, then we're live. And Her Majesty said, oh, right, okay. Clearly not really getting the grip of the technology, but it was nice to see nonetheless. As the months progressed, of course, there were certain things that suddenly she couldn't attend, things that she'd always attended and never truly missed. But for the things that she could, of course, a big crowd of rapturous sort of adoration awaited her. And I'm told that this really inspired her to continue despite all the problems that she had at that point. Of course, many people attribute the absolute decline, quite frankly, in the loss of her dedicated partner, without a doubt her own rock, as she described him, none other than His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. In the previous June, it had hit her incredibly hard, as it would. You know, they'd been together for 73 years. She met him when she was 13 years old. She really deferred to him on more things than people realised. As a very close source, an inner circle pointed out to me, you know, a lot of people just thought that Prince Philip literally stood a couple of paces back. But he truly was more than that, and I think this was really evident in the very final year of the Queen's life. You see, she had deferred to him on many serious matters. He was the one, apparently, that she could talk to openly and discuss, of course, the things that were troubling her. According to those sources, he ran the home and she literally ran the world, quite literally. But of course, everybody needs someone they can confide in. Everybody needs someone that they can openly say, I can trust you. And she truly had found that in her prince. But of course, with his demise, things were very difficult. Lots and lots of people around Her Majesty the Queen were there, obviously, to give support. But the one person, like so many people find in that particular situation, was never coming back. And that truly did hit her harder than even she possibly had thought. But with the dedicated service and friendship, kindness of people like, of course, Catherine, now the Princess of Wales, and Sophie and Edward living very close, there was never a day when she was truly alone. But as a source pointed out to me, the evenings were very difficult for Her Majesty the Queen. She'd taken to doing things that she'd not done before, watching television, doing things like, you know, quizzes and puzzles to simply pass the time. COVID, as she pointed out, had robbed everyone of literally their daily life, and she was trying to find the route back. Normally this would have been easy for her because Prince Philip would have snapped her back into it. But as we found out, he wasn't coming back, and she now had to define herself not just as a monarch, but as a single monarch. And this was proving incredibly hard.
Buckingham Palace has just announced that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has died.
The most significant moments in this unfolding story about our late monarch was simply this. Literally 2 days in the job, the then British Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Liz Truss, was literally about to address the House of Commons. 12 noon, she sat there and then very discreetly was passed the note that everyone truly dreaded. Now, without warning, she discreetly left the chamber and had to gather around her key advisors to work out exactly what to do next. This, as she pointed out to a very close source, was very, very difficult for her, simply because not only was she trying not to become too emotionally attached, because this would not be what, of course, our monarch would wish, but she had to work out exactly very quickly what the rest of the world, the United Kingdom, the nation, would require from her. Tough times, whatever you think about her short tenure as a British Prime Minister. And of course one, I thought, where she exceeded incredibly well under a lot of stress. By 12:30, the royal household had issued a statement, basically claiming that, you know, everybody was gravely concerned about the monarch's health. War on, of course, we look forward to more and more sporadic appearances from our wonderful monarch. But really, it was this one that culminated everything. And perhaps, and this is hard to say, of course, but given the fact that she reigned for 70 years, could this be the image that really is indelible for many people for many years to come? You see, this image was displayed all thanks to a wonderful video filmed at Windsor Castle with the iconic Michael Bond creation, Paddington Bear, all done in the utmost secrecy because she really wanted to surprise all of the grandchildren, not just her own, but around the world. She really wanted to connect with the children, and she actually had the idea. She was looking for something that she felt really would unite everybody and give them an R factor. Now, what's interesting is, as a lot of people now know, she had to literally act with no one there, just the mechanics, because of course this is done digitally. But as you can see, she had great comic timing, and really everybody loved the ending, did they not? The marmalade sandwiches. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And as I told you before here on the show, sadly, lots and lots of marmalade sandwiches were then delivered, quite frankly, to all the royal palaces. Naturally, of course, they were welcomely received, but it's tricky, isn't it? Children just pick things up. And possibly that was the one idea that Her Majesty the Queen had not truly sort of thought through. What would they do with all the marmalade sandwiches? And then, of course, people were leaving literally outside the gates, the Paddington Bears, which really then came to full fruition, sadly, after the demise of the monarch. So you can just see how much that particular video imagery symbolized what she'd achieved. She'd broken through so many things with a very simple but effective performance, using a children's character that was well loved, quite literally, around the world. And not only that, Paddington Bear shot back up to the top of the charts. Books, toys, everything was suddenly selling out. That was the power, even at that age, of our wonderful late monarch. Something, you know, we should cherish, and something that I think many people will look back on in many years to come and simply still smile. To say that, sadly, after the monarch had passed, nobody had ever really seen scenes like it, particularly if you were our age group or indeed younger. There we were, quite literally, being united in grief, remembering our wonderful monarch. And if there was one thing that she was good at, was literally uniting people. As I said to you before here on this show, I remember that wonderful speech she gave at the height of the pandemic, where she phrased it so beautifully by saying, "We will meet again." She gave inspiration to a lot of people in a very dark hour. Just as previous monarchs had done, she'd learned the job incredibly well. But of course, as the queues piled up and literally so many people wanted to pay their very final respects to our late monarch at Westminster Abbey, even, well, the most hardened of people, who perhaps were not necessarily royalists, had to admit she had a certain pulling power. And there were so many people literally queuing up. It was amazing to find some of those wonderful stories as you chatted to people in the queue as to the reasons why they were there. Yes, there were celebrities, and some might suggest they were there for simple publicity. But a lot of people were genuinely there because they cared. They felt that they genuinely lost someone, and we had, never to be replaced again. You see, the bottom line is, although the coronation was a wonderful thing, even though it's done very quickly, and some might say it was a little bit down-pared, I thought it showed the very best of British. It showed the world that we're functioning, we're back, and it is a new reign. Obviously, as Prince William, I thought, very eloquently put it, nobody really wants the job, because that means that you have to lose someone that's very close and dear to you in order to take the job. And as we saw with, of course, Prince William, the Prince of Wales, and Prince George, like Queen Elizabeth II did, they're literally looking at their forthcoming history, but without the person that's so close and dear to them, in the case, of course, of King Charles and Queen Camilla. But back to Her Majesty the Queen. How do you remember her? As ever, I really would love to know your thoughts, your memories, and of course, what you think of her now. What's her legacy to you? For me, she's everywhere, quite literally living in this country. There is not a day when you do not see that image. And rightly so, His Majesty the King is in no real rush to have that image replaced with his own. He knows his mother was universally loved, and there was literally nobody quite like her. Very wisely, she never gave interviews. And that's something that you cannot be said, of course, of the modern day royals. This made her something of an enigma, and more importantly, all the more interesting for those that were lucky enough to get up close and finally meet the Queen. Now, for all of those people out there that truly enjoy our channel, thank you so much as ever for watching. And do let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are about our late and wonderful monarch. And as ever, I'll try and pass as many of these on to the palace on your behalf. Neil Sean, Buckingham Palace, London.